the hot topic of the draft, and specifically the Northern Academies and the NGAs, and how this draft was compromised to the point of manipulation by what happened. The AFL is searching for a solution. It won't remain the same, and this has piqued your interest.
Yeah, and I don't think it's just this year. I mean, everyone's jumping up and down because the Gold Coast had the benefit of four guys in they were all elite picks in one draft. I'd say good luck to them. I'm not here to poo-poo that at all. I think that's terrific. But father-son selections and academy picks, make no mistake, Gerard, they win your premierships. They build your list in a way that no other selection can do, because teams at the moment are just chasing, which I think is a nonsense. The point system, to me, is a complete bust, because it allows clubs with a first-round selection to trade back to next year, to swap that with a club for next year. So they bank 2 first-rounders next year straight away and use picks, like Nick Dacos at pick 4 was pick 38, 40, 42 and 44. No one in their right mind think that's like type. So it's a massive problem. I think that when Laura Kane and probably Jeff Walsh will have a say in this as well, given his expertise and why he's been dragged back in a couple of days a week to the AFL. I think that they'll look at this one. And I think this will be the most important change to the game in terms of your ability to create a list that has the potential to win a premiership quickly. We're sort of just seeing the start of it with Brisbane, with Ashcroft and Fletcher. The Dogs with Darcy and Jamara. Crofty now gets on board as well. So we're sort of seeing what it can do quickly to lists. So I think that people are snoozing on this a little bit. There'll be alterations made. Don't just think there'll be nice, subtle alterations. This is something that's going to really change the ability for your club to rise quickly via father-son academy selections.
What would you do?
I just think that at the moment they're way too cheap. And the point system for me doesn't work. I think you've got to pay like type. You shouldn't be able to trade out of an area where a player is likely to be bid upon to have a greater gain. So if you know that, and Jed Walter was the talk this year, but I'm not going to use Jed. Let's use Jamari Ugle-Hagan, right? He's going to go pick 1 or 2 in that draft. The Dogs or whatever club it is at that stage should be forced to hold a pick or trade up to a pick that's within 6, 8, 10 selections of that bidded number. So if they had to hold a pick, say 10 picks after, or pick 10 for pick 1, then they don't have the ability to trade that pick out for Treloar as readily. Or they have to draw forward rather than delaying that first round selection. So instead of tipping that out, like Sam Darcy at pick 2, they get him for pick 34, 40 and 43 or whatever it was, those picks deep. If they had to hold onto a pick or trade from pick 17 down to pick 12, then that creates a bit of movement as well for teams that are down the bottom of the ladder. So as an equalisation measure, you're drawing the better teams forward in the draft. They have to trade. They have to trade for picks. You get overs. The guys that are already down the bottom of the draft that have got picks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are probably likely to get ahead of their father-sons or academy picks. So they will get 2 licks of the ice cream before they have to get caught up. So I think if you want to reset this as an equalisation tool, which it should be, that's the whole point of the draft, is you must pay like types for those bidded players, those academy selections. And I don't care how many you take. And then you don't have to have restrictions on, those compensation, those picks being, we're talking about the national, the NGAs. Some restrictions on there where unless it's outside of pick 40, you can't bid on that. But we don't have to have any of that. You've just got to have like type picks. Like Brisbane weren't able to do. If those 4 players were at Brisbane's academy, they wouldn't have been able to select them like the Gold Coast did. That's rubbish. So if you've just got like picks, then I think you correct things pretty quickly.
So if we used Gold Coast as the live example before us, so Jed Walter gets bid on at 3, so they would have had to have kept their first round pick to spend there, so they'd have to have a pick inside 13 to be able to get him.
Exactly right.
And then 9, when Ethan Reid is bid upon, they would have to have a pick inside 19. So that's going to force their hand to find a partner to trade inside there. And then at 14, Jake Rogers.
Yep.
And then it's spilt down to 26 with Will Graham. So have a pick inside a catchment of 10 to be able to get
on
that player.
So I'm not saying that they've done anything wrong.
No.
What I am saying is that if they trade out their first pick at pick 4 to get next year's first rounder, they're winning twice, and I don't think that's right. Give them the 4 players if they want to match those bids. So they may not want to match those bids under a different system, but clearly they did. But drag them forward rather than allow them to delay, because I just think as an equalisation measure, it doesn't work if you do that. And I love the father-son selections, but you can't be getting the game's best juniors coming through and paying pick 40 and 42 for them. That's not what we're about. I don't think there's one person who sits on the couch watching the draft coverage that understands the point system. When the graphic comes up, everyone says, what's this mean?
So I think it was a useful mechanism when it was first brought in, because you used to be able to pick up your father-sons in was it the end of the second round or something?
Yeah, third round.
Yeah, you could get them so cheap. So the point system was a necessary invention, but it's just outdated now.
Yeah, and clubs, and credit to the list managers, they've outsmarted the AFL. I mean, what Sydney did with the Nick Blakey draft, where they traded out, used their Brumby picks, got Nick, and then traded back in. I think their next pick was Rowbottom. So they were able to outsmart the system. They put the clamps on that pretty quick, but they've allowed everything else to stay. So I think there'll be a shift, Jared. It's just how drastic is that shift, and what will it do? So if you're at a club, you're thinking, okay, how can we pick this apart straight away? I think the only way to do it is to force clubs to keep like-type picks.
Would you need to do that on the night? So it would be an interesting part if Gold Coast was suddenly left scrambling for a pick inside 19 when the bid came at 9. For those who are saying the draft was a bit dry, she'd be on for young and old at that stage.
Yeah, well, that's a sport in itself for these clubs, because what it does, if you bid on a player ahead of and knowing that it's going to be matched, it pushes your selections back. So if you're having to match someone else's bid on your player, well, you pay less for them. So I just think challenge clubs to bring their picks forward rather than delay them, because we want to live in the now. This is where they are. They're 17th on the table. These are the picks they've got. And if they need to exhaust other options to get more talent in this year, we'll drag picks forward from next year rather than delay everything. It's ruining this pillar of as an equalisation tool.
And just for clarity, you're supportive of the Northern Academies?
Love them. And I love the father-sons, and I think it's terrific. And you've just got to work out how you do it. But make no mistake. I mean, someone said to me this morning, would Collingwood have won the flag without the father-sons of Dacos Moore and the NGA of Quaynor? Now, they're the sort of players you're talking about. The impact that these guys have had on this premiership tilt is enormous. Now, they haven't paid what they should have paid for those guys because of the system, and I'm not having a go at them. I'm just saying that they've done the right thing. But that's what we're talking about. We're talking about building premiership lists, and you've got to pay real term picks.
How much of what happens in November, December, January shapes the material fortunes of teams when they get into the season proper?
Oh, well, there are different people have different views on this. I don't think it's everything, but gee, it's a great lead. It's a great lead into the health of your footy club and what that can do for you over a 3-month training block, and what it can set you up for into the season. Now, there's some people. We did the pre-season reports last year. Josh Gablich and I went to pretty much every available session where you could see something meaningful. And not every session was meaningful. It's hit and miss. And we would give an opinion on what we'd seen, and then some would say, that's just rubbish. We're not going there to say, he's trained the house down. That's not. Never mentioned that.
No.
We're
not flying in summer. No. That's not it.
Can I give you my checklist? I'll give you a checklist of things that we look for. The number one alarm for me at clubs at this stage of the year are surgeries. Players that have been impacted by surgeries, how many have you had? How many are on the sidelines for 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks? When you hear someone starting training in January, they're in trouble. They're 2.5 months behind everyone else that they're going to be competing against come round one, which is the first week of March. So that's going to come really quickly. So in an 8-week span, you've got to pick up on the rest of the competition that's been going for 4 or 5 months. Doesn't happen, Gerard. So surgeries to me are the greatest alarm you can have at a footy club. And clubs are pretty guarded with that information now about the volume and how many they've had. The second part to that is how many sessions players have been impacted for. So whether it's a hamstring, a niggle, they've had something happen. They've had an event happen at training or in an off-season. How long does that impact them for? Do they miss a block of 1 week? Have they had a secondary injury, upon return? Those sorts of delays. Anything that impacts your ability to have 3 main training sessions a week for 12 weeks.
Yes.
So that's number 2. The third thing I probably look for is something that's new, whether it's a new position for a current player or has and I just saw a text come through before. I didn't park it, unfortunately. Is there someone turned up in a shape that strikes the eye? Christian Petrarca 5 years ago, bang. What has happened here?
Yeah.
And you go, wow, he's ready for a season.
Yep.
Someone just put Sam Darcy. Looks a different size. Just looks like a man now, not a boy. So that can be a massive shift on where he can play, his durability, all those sorts of things, what the coach can do with him. And then obviously there's the new positions with the trade acquisitions. So last year when we went to Collingwood, we talked about, I said, I think I can see all 4 of these guys playing.
Yes.
Like Frampton was holding down a position down back. You had Hill look like he'd challenged Jack Ginnivan straight away, who turned up slightly out of condition. And that was enough to open the door for Hill to take his place. And then you've obviously had Mitchell in the middle, and we spent months talking about Nick Dacos. What does that allow them to do with Nick Dacos? Does he just stay half back, blah, blah, blah. So there were all those things, and McStay was the one that people couldn't place. Is he actually going to be the player they need him to be? And when we saw what he was able to do in the back half of the year, as I think he was the number 1 target inside forward 50 across the competition in the second half of the year. In terms, you kick the ball to that guy, you get a return. So he was significant in the back half of the year, and even in those couple of finals there where he kicked multiple goals. The next thing is probably new strategy, and different clubs are trying different things. Have they gone away from defending 1-on-1 to becoming a spatial defence? Have they gone away from slow, static ball movement to freewheeling? Handball game. Now they're going to move the ball. We hear Richmond are going to move the ball. They're going to play with I always think they have, but they're going to do it a different way.
Yep.
They're going to live with mistakes. Is the terminology they're going with. So there's all those sorts of things. So new coaches bring new strategy. So whether they're senior coaches or they're the back office crew, the pit crew, if you like, what does that look like, and how do you think that'll help? And then the last one is probably quality. Are you seeing all of that come together and elevate the standard of training? So I think that when I watched Melbourne last year, every session, life and death, and it was awesome to go and watch. That's when we sat here and we said, look, if they're top of the table after 10 weeks, they may have a dip. They may come again late in the season. It was exactly what happened. So, we're not looking for the complete story. You never get and there's a little bit of guesswork in there. But there's no secret to when you go and watch a Nick Dacos train like he did last year. You say, this is unreal. This is going to go next level across the competition. And I don't know who that's going to be this year. But we'll go and watch them all and you compare them to the competition. Not to themselves, really, and you're not crystal balling too much.
And the 2-minute drills that you were seeing, which ended up determining the whole season, is Collingwood's mastery of the close finish, to win it, to save it, that you were seeing that, and then that was the defining quality of the year.
And so picture every club's pre-season this year, Gerard. Every club will be doing the 2-minute drills for the last 20 minutes of training. They will. And it's not necessarily the physical side of it. It's more the mental side of it. Hey, what are we trying to achieve here? You don't necessarily have to crash and bash or do anything. Well, how should the game look? What are we trying to achieve? So you're trying to create 22 coaches or 23 coaches for game day, that they all know what should be invoked. You don't need to put up those stupid signs, and you don't need to run messages out because they just know. And that's what happened with Collingwood. What they kill 7 minutes on the clock in that prelim, was it?
Yeah, and
7
they did
minutes
it repeatedly. Yeah,
Unbelievable. We've never seen that before. So this is what we're talking about. You can gain massive advantages on the competition through November, December, January, February. If you don't believe that, you're living under a rock, because Collingwood and Craig McRae have shown you that in the most recent example.
Right. The last element of the preseason I wanted to ask you about was the talk.
The chat.
And Craig McRae said that he wanted to be there day one of preseason, but he had the study commitment in the US. But he felt that to be able to set the tone the first time the whole group comes together. So my mind wandered to Melbourne. First time together after they've been under siege while they've been various parts of the world. The Bulldogs, who have got an external review going on as they regather for the preseason. The Suns, first time under Damien Hardwick, is he starting with culture or is he starting with X's and O's? Because both of them have to be done. How significant at a couple of clubs might the talk have been on day one back?
I hadn't really thought about this until you mentioned it this morning. I don't know. The answer is I don't know. And some players and some people really grab on and hold these words and these messages close to them and it drives them. And other players would struggle to tell you what the meeting was about. Once they leave the room, what was that all about? Oh, yeah, something about, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. It's different for everyone. So I don't know is the simple answer, but I can always remember Dennis Pagan used to theme pre-seasons, and when we had a few seasons in a row where we just didn't quite get there, he themed one every little thing counts. So anytime there was a shortcut taken, whether it be not doing a weight session, not doing a physio session, or even missing massage, whatever it was, he'd just say, hey, this is the sort of stuff that kills us. Third quarter of a prelim, this is when it comes back and bites us. That you're not 100% invested and 100% ready to go. So that theme of every little thing counts is probably the main one that I can remember. But I think that when the new coach comes in, you're talking about Damien Hardwick, I mean, that's a major shift, isn't it?
Yep. Craig
McRae comes in, major shift. What's this guy like? What's he going to say? How are we going to play? And they come in and they... even Luke Beveridge, when he first got to the Dogs, it was the perfect time for a handover from the contested game to, hey, we're going to play.
Yep.
We're going to maximise, our handball game and our run and gun, and we're going to excite. They're the sort of shifts that I think really excite playing groups. Outside of that, it's pretty much, what one club does to the next is pretty similar, I think. They're just words. They're just themes in the end. And this time of year, I think all the challenges are your own. They're all personal. Can I get better? Can I deliver more for the team? And a lot of players are exploring how good they can be. You're 20 years of age. You're 21 years of age. You're not even sure how good you are. So new opportunity, new position, new times, getting fitter. The game now, if you can't run, you can't play. So you've got to be able to put the Ks in the legs. This is what we talk about every session fronting up. You build that durability, and then you can be a part of all these on-field discussions.
Yep.
But until that point, you really don't know. So, what would be the discussion at Melbourne, do you think?
I think it would. Max Gawn would have seized a moment to have a conversation around their culture, how they're being perceived, how they want to act. I think that was clear from Simon Goodwin when he sat in the studio. I think the Bulldogs it would have been a reassuring tone, is we're doing everything to remove any possible obstacles. This is not a destructive external review. This is to give you every conceivable chance to make sure we've got it all lined up. I remember Phil Davis said to me...
Positive or negative? So before you leave...
Positive.
Yeah, so the players are sitting there thinking, this is fantastic.
Because I think on the outside, when you're away from the club, you'd be going, oh, right, so an external review in November. What's it? I think you'd be walking in and going, this is why we're doing it, and this is what it will mean for you in our quest for the top four.
Yeah.
Phil Davis said something to me about when Adam Kingsley arrived, and he said it is such a shift from going in-game, we do A, B, and C. Well, now we're doing X, Y, and Z, and you have to ingrain that. So you have to learn it and then ingrain it. So you learn it during the preseason and then you ingrain it in the first 10 weeks. So I felt like we saw that materialise. And then the Hardwick side of things is, so the Richmond man concept, he will bring something to the Gold Coast. When does that start? Because he's got to do the ABC to X, Y, Z, and then there's the cultural overlay as well. So I reckon you'd be so excited as a 23-year-old. Oh, what's this going to look like? So you'd be on edge. You'd want to have presented well. But I reckon you would be excited by okay, what am I getting here? Where's he going to take us? What's Alex Rance going to do for me? Yeah. So I think, and I reckon the Richmond players who would have been super comfortable in their professionalism for a long time, it'd be going, I'd want to run well in this 2K time trial now. Like, first impressions, no matter where you are in your career, there's a new coach to make a first impression with.
And there's a nervousness to all that if you're the player. You've still got to deliver. Now you've got to deliver in November or October or December, whenever those markers are. So I think there's a couple of disasters when you're a player, Gerard. The new coach is a disaster. The new he's a scare because you're not sure what to expect. There's an excitement to it, but there's the real fear. Am I going to be one of his men? Is he going to trust me to do the roles that the previous coach trusted me with? Am I one of his guys? And then there's the fitness guy. The new fitness guy is as scary as the new coach.
Yep.
Is he absolutely rock solid high end endurance? He's going to run us, this guy. If you're not a good endurance runner, there's a fear there. If you're not a good power performer, he takes down the power path, then there's a scare there. So there's a couple of positions that cause significant trauma for the players, but again, they're little things that are going on in the background for this sort of 12-week period that I think gives you a chance to build health throughout the season. The clubs that have had great off seasons are generally healthy through the home and away.
West Coast is optimism. We want nothing but oozing optimism now inside these walls. So I take it Harley Reid's been front and back page of the paper for 5 days, but no more dragging our backsides around. So how you pitch that and how you infuse that.
I think they got the easiest pitch of all time. That now it is that the page has turned. It's over to you young guys. So you're taking priority, but you've got to be at this level. So they've just got to get to those levels that they'll set internally, and they've got enough there. I love the conversation about the West Coast because I think over the next couple of years they'll surprise a few and how quick they bounce back. Because it was all broken, you saw the worst of everything. And it was challenged week upon week to perform when they weren't able. They just weren't there. And once all hope is lost or the season's over, it's hard. It's hard to build a competitive week on week performance. I think the next couple of years they won't be anywhere near as bad as what people are saying, and it'll be the youngsters that take over.
St Kilda, so probably a relatively nurturing environment last year. I felt that there was just something late in the year that Ross Lyon said on 360, which just hinted as it'll be a more demanding environment that they walk into this year. So they've had their first year together. Same at Essendon, a bit of exploration in the first year. Now that we're locked down.
Yeah,
now that messaging was there as they left. I wonder what that looked like on day one.
The Essendon fan, if you talk to the rusted on Essendon fan, it's got to go past words now. That's the discussion. Hey, we're not these are the standards. If you're not this, and this, you're not getting played. Well, I reckon they played a few last year that weren't meeting those standards.
Yes.
So did selection match the words? I don't think it did last year. So if you're gonna put those hooks to the playing group, you've got to follow them through and see them through. Great signs though, but all those young guys going off to training camps together and investing their own money. They've actually personally invested in themselves as a mini business, if you like, to deliver upon their end of the bargain. But yeah, we talk about Essendon a lot, and they talk a lot. It is a little bit, do their actions back up what they say.
1300 736 736. My coffee tab's pretty well run out. Oh, the other one was Carlton, I reckon. You can talk about hungry. You wouldn't dare have been the Carlton player who didn't rock up on Monday. You don't have to be there, but you wouldn't dare have been the player that didn't go there. Yeah, unless you're recovering.
I'm different on this one. I'm different on this. The fact that you're there or not there, I'm not sure on that. You're drawing these blokes back too early.
They were all there. They were all, I'm hungry. I'm not going to be the one left out of this.